morning. Is anyone there yet? No? That's all right. We'll wait. Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm just waiting a few minutes until everybody logs in. I'm excited to have you here for our Junior Ranger program. If you're at home and you've been here before, give me 2 thumbs up. Okay, if you're here for the very first time ever virtually, raise your hands like this. Good deal. And I'm really excited today because we get to do one of my favorite things. And we have some really fun guests over here. Let's see if we can take a look at what's going on over here. Who's over here? Oh. So what do we have over there? What do you see? Name all the creatures you see right now. So how many of you see the big black and white critter with the very long horns? His name is Brea, and he is 18 years old. He's old enough to vote. And he has really long horns, and those long horns actually are part of his name. He is a Texas Longhorn, and longhorns were a really important part of the mission. And then we have other creatures over there, and they're all taking a little nap right now. We're going to be talking more about those. Those are our Navajo churro sheep, and they are part of our mission story. In fact, all of our animals here at Purisima are part of our mission story. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about the sheep. And so I'm just giving some time here for folks to get logged on and see what time we're going to start. We're going to start at 10. So I hope you have all your things gathered for today, your cardboard, your scissors, your string, your tape, your popsicle stick, or a needle if you need one. We're going to have some fun a little later using all these things. And let's just show a little bit more of the mission here as we're waiting to start. We've got our beautiful bell tower and our big cottonwood tree. And then you can see just down the road here, more of the mission itself. And then as we pan around, you can see the corrals again where we are. And you might see some big hills as we keep moving. There's a great big hill. There's lots of hiking here. We have almost 2,000 acres to ride your bike in or ride your horse in or come hiking with your family and friends. It's a really fun place to play. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and all get started. So I have a cameraman here today. His name is Jesse. He's one of our rangers, so it's good to have him aboard. My name is Ranger Ann, but I'm not wearing my uniform today. I'm actually wearing a costume. And as an interpretive ranger, sometimes I do living history. And so I dress in costume of the time I'll be talking about. And that's what I'm doing today. So thank you for joining us for our Weave Along Junior Rangers. And we're going to be exploring the world of the mission as far as the weaving shop goes. We're going to be going to see how blankets like these were created. And to start with all that, we're going to start with the animals right over here. Now, some of you who tuned in early, do you remember what they were? Let's go see. Let's look over the fence here and see what we have. Let's see. We have the big longhorn steer. His name's Brea, and then the little creatures kind of laying on the ground, sleeping around Brea. Those are our Navajo churro sheep, and they are a big part of our story today. It's their wool that's going to create blankets like the ones I'm holding. So let's take a look over here. And before we get too started, I want to talk a little bit about the blanket that I'm holding and its significance in history. So I have a friend, and she's a Chumash Indian. And she has a really interesting story about her great-great-great-grandmother, who was a Chumash woman. and she lived in Santa Barbara about the year 1769 as a girl, she and her sister and her mom and dad. And her mom and dad let her be baptized by the Padres, who went on to put, we call it founding, Santa Barbara mission in place. And when the Padres would come through to her village, they would bring a blanket like this one, and a shirt like the one I'm wearing, and a skirt like the one I'm wearing. And he would give these clothings to these girls every time they came through to make sure they had clothing and something to keep them warm. And when they came to the mission, they all received a blanket, a shirt, and a skirt if they were a girl, and pants if they were a boy. So this is all part of the Chumash kind of the clothing they would wear here at the mission. But before the mission, they didn't wear clothes like this. So this was a big change for them. I always wondered, did they find them uncomfortable? Was it hard for them to change what they were used to wearing? Because they wore a lot of animal skin. They wove beautiful fabrics out of plant material and feathers and things like that, and they wore them very decorated. So they had beautiful clothing, but it didn't look anything like this. So what I want to do is share a little bit about the Chumash story as we talk about the weaving shop. And to do that, we've got to head down this way. And we're going to go on this road right here. And you can see there's travelers on this road. Look at all the travelers on this road. Hi, travelers. These travelers are traveling on the El Camino Real. This is the royal road of the king. And it went from La Purisima mission to San Luis Obispo mission, all the way up north to Sonoma mission. And south of here, it went all the way to San Diego mission. So this was the road that connected all the missions. So let's travel along it while we talk. So I like to think of the El Camino Real as a road to change, because when these missions came to be, that was about 250 years ago. And it was a really interesting time in California. Most of the people living here were Native Americans, and they had a very different way of life than what you see here. And they were very happy in their lives, but things began to change. They had animals, like we talked about earlier, and those animals, they eat lots of grass. In fact, they ate most of the grass that was supposed to be for the seeds and the basketry material that were for the Native Americans already living here. So already they were thrown into a place where they didn't have all the stuff they needed to live the way they were used to living. And as some of us right now, we're going through changes with things being closed, that we're going through a way of life that isn't what we're used to, right? It's different. So the Chumash people had that, but on a much more extreme level. Kind of an interesting thought as we go through this. So we're going to be heading right down over here to the weaving shop. And as we walk along the El Camino Real. And I know we have viewers today, some of you, and you're not anywhere near where I am today. Well, I'm going to tell you where I am. I'm in Long, California. If you're in Los Angeles, we're about 2.5 hours north of Los Angeles. If you're up by San Francisco, we're about 3.5 hours south of San Francisco. And just over there, about 7 miles, is the Pacific Ocean. So we're near the coast. It looks like I have some offers today too. You'll have some fun. I'm going to introduce you to some of our junior docents. These are volunteers who have been through a training class to help me do these presentations. So some of them actually started off as junior rangers, just like you. All right. Joining us from all over our junior rangers. Let's say hi to the junior rangers. Hi, junior rangers. I'll introduce my friend. Let's start with Miss Kelly. Miss Kelly, tell us a little bit of yourself.
My name is Kelly, obviously. I'm a senior at Rio High School, and I've been a docent for 5 years.
Great, and then we have Miss Molly right over here.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Molly. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I graduated this year.
You graduated this year, everybody at home. Let's give her a big round of applause. For 3 years. And what about Miss Kendall over here?
I'm going to be an 8th grader this year, and I've been a docent for about 2 years.
And you started as a junior ranger. Yes, you did. All right. Hey guys, I had a little bit of an issue here with my headscarf, and I need to fix that. There we go. All right. Sometimes that happens, and we just got to roll with it. Okay, cool thing. So I talked to you a little bit about this blanket. This is actually made from the wool of the sheep that we saw out in the pasture. Take a look right here. So we have, what is this, ladies? What do we call this? Do you remember?
Raw fleece.
It's raw fleece. And let's, come on over here. Let's take a look at it. Tell us what it feels like.
Oily.
It feels oily.
Dirty.
And it's smelly.
And it's smelly. All these wonderful things wrapped up into one raw fleece. So raw fleece, just so we're clear, is the fleece that comes off of the sheep. You saw them out in the pasture. And this is the fleece we shear off them with scissors like these. Now these are sheep shears. And could you imagine getting your hair cut with these shears? Right? Here, Kelly, let's give you a little haircut.
Yeah, you can do it to me.
So we wouldn't do that today. But this is how we shear the sheep. And I'm going to show you something. This is kind of neat. If we look on the other side of this, look, this was part that was right next to the sheep itself. And if I touch it like this, it's really oily. I don't think you can see how shiny my fingers are. But my fingers are really oily with something called lanolin. Lanolin, a really good moisturizer for our human skin. And you can find it in your mom's face cream or in lotions or in any kind of moisturizing product. You usually find some lanolin. So that's something we also get off the sheep. But today we're going to focus on what do we do with these fleece that we see right here. Now, during mission times, there were, girls, do you remember how many?
12,000.
12,000 head of sheep here at La Purisima Mission. And so that corral we saw them in would never hold that many. So the jobs had to be that you would become a shepherd and you would lead these sheep from pasture to pasture. And that would have been a new job for the Chumash men and boys to take care of these sheep while they were feeding them in the pastures, getting them from one place to another. They would look after the sheep. They were shepherds. That was a whole new job. Then you'd have to have somebody shear these sheep. And that was a big job because there's 12,000 of them. So you'd need a lot of men to help shear these sheep. And then you've got to take this fleece and you've got to turn it into that. And for that, I'm going to need the help of my friends here. So why don't we step inside to our weaving shop right over here? Come on. Welcome to the weaving shop, you guys. A big mission over here. We're going to be visiting that later. And if you look over here, we've got our gals right here. They're going to be doing some work. We've got some spinning wheels over here as well. There's lots of things to see in here. This is a pretty big shop. It was a really, really busy place. So Molly, when we washed the fleece, and you've got some clean fleece right there, tell us what is wrong with that clean fleece? Why can't we just start spinning it?
Because it has little pieces of dirt and sticks, and so you have to pick them out.
You have to pick it out, right? And then can you brush through that, or you have to pull the fibers apart?
You have to.
Having a little we're aware of it. We're going to get right back to your back. You were talking about picking the wool clean, and now Molly.
It all out. It will
And then, okay, so when you pick it out, it's going to look nice and clean. And then over here, what do you have? What are those things called?
cards.
Like a birthday card, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do with those?
So,
Or first of all, can you show the kids at home maybe a little bit closer what those are?
they look like big dog brushes. Yeah, and they're metal brushes, basically. And you just pull the fibers through gently and lightly until most of it is covered like this. It'll look like this. And then you're going to use the other card to gently and lightly pull it.
There you go. You're doing a great job. So you want to get all those fibers going in the same direction, just like your hair, right? When you brush your hair out, you want it nice and smooth at the end.
Yeah.
So that actually looks really good. Can we see what you have? Look at that. Look at how nice and straight those fibers are. That's beautiful. So then we want to take them off. Right.
So you just roll them off.
Beautiful.
And then it'll look like this in the end.
And then we're ready to do what Kelly's going to do right over here. So Kelly, what is this device called?
This is called a drop spindle, and what it does is it turns the fibers that she just carded into yarn.
And check that out. So the yarn is actually really strong once you twist it. All right, so let's see how that one works. That's okay.
So you spin it, if it'll work, and then you twist it up, and when you spin it, it creates tension.
Perfect. And then that makes it nice and tight, right?
Yeah.
So then once we fill this part of the device is called a spindle. Once this is full, we're going to take and put all of that yarn on something here called a nitty knotty. Can you guys at home say nitty knotty? Nitty knotty, nitty knotty, nitty knotty. Nitty knotties actually measure and stretch the yarn that Kelly just made. And then we're going to take this over to a place called the lavanderia. And the lavanderia is a big, huge pond of water where they do the laundry. And you would stick this in the water until it was super dripping, soaking wet. And if you brought it in here, your mother might yell at you like, get that dripping, soaking wet thing off my carpet or whatever, right? That's how wet it is, just to let you know. And then you're going to come over here and you put a big rock on the bottom of it. You can take it off the nitty knotty, and it stretches all that yarn out so that tension that curled up on itself is no longer there. And what I mean by that, I will show you when we go to the loom. And we're going to do the loom right now. I'm going to put this back over here. We've got different colors. By the way, you might notice our yarn is different colors. I'm going to let you think about, why are the yarns different colors? Come on over here. I'm not going to answer that right away because I want you guys to think about it. I'm going to sit down at my loom, and this is where we make blankets. So when I sit here, I have my feet resting on two petals on the ground. Here they are. 1, 2. Just like that. And you also might notice while you're down here, sorry, Jessie. Jessie is doing a great job here. I'm going to tighten up my warp, and I've got to spin this big gear wheel, and I'm going to put the brake on right there. What that does is when it's nice and tight, you come up here, you're going to see this is my warp. And now my warp is nice and tight. And this is where you can see, this is the weaving. This is where the blanket was made. This is the warp. And this right here is the weft. Warp, weft. Weft is like left with a W. Sound good? Okay. So I also have a shuttle. And this one, do you remember when Kelly spun the yarn, it twisted up on itself when she held it together, and we called that tension. And then we took that yarn and we put it on a nitty knotty, got it soaking wet, took it off the nitty knotty, and hung a big rock on it. And what that did was it stretched out. Remember all the tension that spun up on itself in the yarn? Check it out. It doesn't spin up on itself anymore. It's nice and straight. So it makes this really easy to weave with. So what I'm going to do is take my shuttle. That's this device right here. And the shuttle is like the space shuttle. It's going to carry stuff across, okay? So I'm going to take my shuttle and there we go. I have to put my feet down now. My shuttle is on my left, and I'm going to shoot it over to the right. So I need to put my right foot down. And I'm going to enter my shuttle on this side. and this is going to go shooting across to you. Are you ready to catch it? There you go. Look at that. That is so cool. All right, so now I have shuttled my yarn across. Whoops, let's see how this goes. All right, so I've shuttled my yarn across, and now, do you see the string is right here? I'm going to switch my feet, and when I do, something's going to happen right here. So I want you to watch, and I want you to tell me what happens on 3. 1, 2, 3. Watch this. Ready? Go. What happened? You want to see it again? Let's do it again. So here, my right foot is down. And now I'm going to switch my feet and think about what's happening on the warp. 1, 2, 3, go. Look at that. All right. So now I'm going to move it down. This is a reed with a lot of teeth on it. That means it has these things that pull the yarn together. And it's going to move this yarn down to the rest of the yarn in a nice straight line. This is called a beater. And so that is how you weave. Now, I asked you a question earlier. I said, why are there 2 different colors? And I didn't tell you, if you didn't already know at home, what happens to these strings. So when my right foot was down, that's this foot, and I switched over to my left foot, watch what happens to the top strings, and you can see it right here. The top strings went down below, and the bottom strings came up, right? And that's weaving. So you didn't have to weave it like this, right? If you've ever woven anything, you have to weave it like that. Today, when we do our weaving together, we won't have a machine like this. You'll have to do it yourself, weaving it in and out. Now, why I'm bringing up the machine part of this is because this machine was a really high-tech device for the mission times. And it could make several blankets at once. So my warp strings, that's these strings right here, are actually, get this, they're 50 feet long. They're super long. And they're all wound up right back here. Do you see that? So that back thing is a big, if you will, it's a big spool of string that I'm going to weave into blankets. Now, as I weave, so I've just woven this, there's a bunch of stuff that I've already done the weaving to down here. So there's already completed weaving right down here. Look at this. I have all of this. All of these are blankets. See that? So when I'm done on this machine, I will unroll what's down here and then check it out. Look up here for just a sec. You see these pieces of wood? Isn't that weird to have pieces of wood in your weaving? Why would you do that? These are blankets. I don't want wood in my blankets. But this part is important to separate the 2 blankets. And when I'm done with this, weaving all the blankets on these strings, this is how I separate them. I take the wood out and it leaves just blank string. And that string is important too. Right here, I'm going to show you. Hold on. I got to get my prop. Everybody needs props, right? So it's going to leave string that's loose, right? Because there's no weaving on it. And then I can tie it in a knot like this. And you guys are going to have to do this today too. You're going to have to tie knots on your blankets, and this helps them stay together. So this is a completed blanket. And so I just have to finish our story about blankets here at the mission. So who do you think received the blankets? Now, at this mission, we produced about 1,000 blankets a year. And there were about 900 people who lived here. So who got those blankets? Well, I'll tell you, the people who lived here received blankets. Remember the girls I told you about? They received blankets every year because the Padres wanted to make sure that the people who lived here all had something to keep them warm. They wanted them to be clothed. They wanted them to have food. They wanted them to know God, and they wanted to give them a job, just like the people working in this weaving shop. So there was a lot of work to be done here, and it was a really different kind of life for the Chumash than what they were accustomed to. But somehow they did survive it, and they did that through just continuing to find new ways to get through an ever-changing world around them. And it wasn't easy. And today we tell that story so that we remember to respect people and how they live. And I think that's a really important lesson for today. And I'm sure you at home are hearing a lot about that and how important it really is. So, okay, now I promised you we were going to do some weaving on a loom for you. Before we do that though, I want to talk a little bit, one last thing about colors. So we have different colors of yarn. And those of you who are thinking about it, did you guess that there's different colored sheep? Yes, that's exactly right. So at the mission, we could dye wool, and we did on some occasions, but for these blankets, they would just use the natural colors of the sheep and their fleece. And so you can look at, you know, we have some gray, we have cream colored sheep, we also have some coffee colored sheep, and some almost black sheep. So we get different colors of natural wool from our flock out here. And it's a lot of fun to weave with it. Okay, now it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited. You guys are gonna get to try your hand at weaving at home. So let's go see what the girls are up to right out here. Okay, this is gonna be fun. So we're going to start with Kindle. So, all right, so Kindle, tell us about what we need to do.
So we're going to start with a piece of cardboard like this. You can really make it any size, but I made it an 8 by 8 inch. And then you're going to measure a line like this, about ½ an inch away from the end of the cardboard on each side, like so. Next, you're going to measure lines going all the way up. Now, it's important to make sure that there's the same amount of lines on each side. After you finish cutting or putting the lines, you're going to cut them up to that first line you made, just like this.
And that's where your string's going to go, right?
Yeah, this will be the frame.
So this is the loom. That's our loom for doing this. And does it matter if they get it exactly perfect?
No.
No, it doesn't. We can still weave on it, huh?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we have that. Now, what's our next step?
So,
Molly, are you going to show us that part?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So you're going to take your yarn ball, any color you want. I'm just going to do a white. And you stick it like this, and you start to weave it through the cardboard.
Okay, so they're just going to wrap it around from...
And don't cut your yarn until you're all the way wrapped.
Okay, so they're just going to wrap it into each notch they just cut.
So then it will look like this.
Okay, and then how do you... So you had a piece that was... There you go, so you can
and then
tie
you
it.
would pull it from, if you went all the way through.
Beautiful. Look at how nice that is. That makes a perfect loom, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like the warp that we had on the loom, you guys? It looks just like it.
And then you take the back of your yarn and you tie it off.
You can tie it or you can tape it,
Or
right?
tape it.
Let's do a tape for the kids who don't know, who want to do the tape piece. You just tape it, just like that. And that's going to be your backside, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
What's next? Okay, so Kelly, what do we do next?
Okay, well, I need scissors to tie it off real quick. Sorry.
Sure. That's all right. Let's get you some scissors. you go.
So I'm gonna tie mine off.
So this is your starting point.
Yes. This is
Okay.
the starting point.
So you picked your color.
Oh, I might all the colors you want.
Yeah, I'm doing several colors because I want to do a pattern.
And that's really fun, isn't it? Choosing your colors.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pick my color and I'm gonna get a nice amount of yarn to start with. And then I'm just gonna cut that off. And I'm going to be using a yarn needle, but you can also use a popsicle stick with tape on it, kind of like the shuttle.
You would wrap it around a little better.
Yeah.
Huh?
There you go. But you can also use this. And I'm going to show you how to, if I can get this in. There. You can also tape this one, or you can just do a tiny little knot right there.
And do you want to be able to undo that knot?
Yes, you want to be able to undo the knot. That's why I don't double knot it. I just did one time around.
That's just so it doesn't slip through, right?
Yeah. So what you're gonna do now is you are going to start over here, and you're going to weave in and out. So you're gonna go under, over, under, over, under, and then you're gonna keep doing that until you get to the end. And then for the first row, you're going to pull your string all the way through. Until you have a little bit on the edge, because you don't want to lose it. And you can trim the edges when you're done, if you would like to. And now that you're on the other side, you want to look to see where you ended. Under, so now I have to start over. So I'm going to go over, under, over, under.
So the next
Over,
line is opposite
under.
what you just did.
Yes. And it's okay if you miss one, you can always go back and fix it. And you pull it through, and don't pull too tight. And then you can push it down a little bit, and then you start again on this side. So now that it's over, I'm gonna start under. And I'm gonna weave in and out. And you're gonna keep doing this until you run out of yarn. And then, and so now I'm gonna go under, over, under, over, over.
That looks really good. So now, because for the sake of
Mhm.
time,
Yes.
what do we do once we've done the weaving part?
Okay, so
Okay, so for that we're going to Molly, right? So Molly's got a thing, and then all of you will show us your finished project. But when you're done, it's going to look like that, right?
You have your weaving, all kind of this is it. So then you're gonna take the back, and I recommend cutting it in the middle so you have long strings for all sides.
Long strings really help. Short strings are really hard to tie, huh, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
So cut them all down the middle, and even the long one.
Oh, this is exciting. I love this part.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the green one because you also have your back of your when you start.
Yeah, okay.
So you're gonna take
Aren't you
them
clever?
out. You'll tie that around to make a loop. If you need help, ask a parent or a brother or sibling, and just pull it through and make a knot so that it stays together. And then we'll cut off the tie. The scissors wants to cut. There you go. And then you'll continue with the other ones to make, you need to knot them like 1 or 2 times so that it will stay together.
So just like we did on the big loom inside, you guys remember when I showed you the blanket, it had the knotted strings. That's the part that Molly's showing you right now. So when you finish, you've got to knot your strings together. So, and you know, one of the other ways, maybe you can show them how to do it where they take 2 of those and they tie them in a double knot.
Or you could take 2 if you want to, and you could wrap them through and tie them together to help hold them together.
And we're going to do that all the way until we're all done, right?
Until you're all the way finished through.
Okay.
And then what
does it look like?
This is mine.
How
finished.
cute is that?
You just tie the bottoms and
That is wonderful. Let's see who else has some that you can show. Let's see. Oh, and we have Kendall, you did 2 colors on yours.
yeah, I'm just tying it.
So, and you're just finishing the tying part.
Yeah.
Very good. And then Kelly, let's see yours.
These are some of the ones that I made.
Look at that. And did your brother help you
And
too?
yeah, this is the one that I helped my 8-year-old brother make.
Jack made that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Boy, those are beautiful. That is super cool. So if you watching at home, we would love to see your creations. Will you post them on our page? Because this is really fun to see what you guys are doing. We miss having you here in person, but we're so glad you could join us today virtually. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope we kicked off a new fun craft for you to try when you have some downtime. And until we see you guys out here in the park, hopefully soon, take care.